Okay, so what we are going to talk about today, you're on my cloud now. What we're going to talk about today, I don't know if any of you realized it's October. We're knee deep into October, which means that we're, in the last quarter of this year. And what I like to do in the last quarter of of the current year is to immediately start thinking about the next year. Okay. So, a lot of real estate type people and brokers and coaches and all of those things say, this time of the year they're really focused on finishing the last quarter really really strong, or having another big push on sales, or doing all that. And I just think that that doesn't even need to be talked about, because I feel like you guys all want to do that anyways, right? And I want to do that anyways. Like, what the hell do we need to talk about the fact that we want to finish the year strong and sell more houses? We already know that. Okay? We already know that. So, if you're not there mentally, then, you might question what you're doing for a living, because, that's just what we do. So, the tricky part about this is that the way that I start to think about the following year will help with the last part of the current year. Okay? It helps with the last part of the current year because, like I said, when I put my plan in, or when I put my action plan into place and get things moving for 2026, I'm doing it in 2025. Okay? I never want to wait until 2026, and this is going to make more sense when we get into it. But if I've got a set of goals and an action plan for 2026, I'm not going to wait till 2026 to start. Okay? Because then I'll be behind. There's a ramp up period for these things, right? And let's say that the ramp up period is 30 days. Well, if you start January 1, 2026, which I know you're not going to do because you're going to be sleeping on January 1, 2026, but if you start January 2, 2026, and your ramp up period to get things running is 30 days, well, I mean, you lose a month. Okay? And so I'm just going to use round numbers. If you say, hey, I want to sell 12 units in 2026, I want to sell an average of a unit a month. If you wait until the beginning of the year to start working on that, you're going to lose a month of production, and now you're squeezing 12 units into 11 months versus 12 months. So when I say do goal planning, do action planning, do calendaring, do strategic thinking, do those things for next year, that's like in November of this year. Okay. And here's the reality of it. You're probably going to have more time in November and December, when business is, for the past 3 years anyway, it's been a little bit slower than you will when you're ramping up for spring. So, with that said, what we're going to talk about today is goal setting, action planning, and calendaring. But before I get into that, I want to give you some high level stuff, right? In my mind, what you should always be working on in business, and these are the things that I'm most concerned with in business, and you might have others, but what you should always be working on in business is three main things, right? Number one, I want to expand my personal brand as a real estate agent or a real estate broker. Okay. I want my brand, me, Damian, to be more recognizable every day, every month, every year. I want that influence to be larger. Okay. You want your personal brand to grow all the time too, right? Number two, I want I call it, I call it my book. I want my book to grow every day, every week, every month, every year, right? And number three, I want to sell more units every day, every week, every month, every year, right? Those are my three priorities. There's another one that is different than yours. I also want my core of agents to grow every day, every week, every month, every year. So when I wake up every day, or when I do strategic planning for any year, it's all about that. That's all that it's about. Okay, I keep it very, very simple. I want my brand to have more reach. I want my book to get bigger. I want to sell more property. I want to get more agents. That's it. That's all I care about. Okay. And I think that it's really important to be clear about what you care about because there is so much noise and distraction in not just our industry, but in every industry that is kind of vying for your attention. Well, you should be doing this. Well, you should be doing that. Well, you should be doing this. Well, you should be doing that. Really? Should you really be doing all of that? I don't know. But what I do know is what I should be doing is growing my brand, growing my book, growing my agents, growing my sales. That's what I care about, right? So I'm really, really clear about that. The way to attack all of those things with any kind of action plan, the number one most important thing in any action plan is what? I've said it before, somebody tell me what it is. What's the number one most important thing? And spoiler alert, I suck at it. What's most important? Somebody tell me. It's just like golf.
Action.
What's most important? It starts with C, ends in istancy. Consistency, right? Consistency is the most important thing in the world. Okay. The other thing that you need to know is if you're going to grow any of those things, if you're going to expand any of those things, it's probably going to involve things that are both outside of your comfort zone and outside of your current set of habits. This may sound obvious, but most people don't realize if you stay inside your comfort zone and inside your current set of habits, you'll be exactly where you are right now. Because that comfort zone and that set of habits puts you right where you are. If you want to go beyond that, you have to get outside of those two things or nothing will change. All right? The other thing you need to remember when you're thinking about these plans is that if it's going to contribute to any of that kind of growth, it's probably new from everything that you're doing right now. Okay? Kind of like the point we made with the consistency, or excuse me, with the comfort zone and the habits. Anything that you're going to start doing that's really going to catapult you or give you any kind of growth and what's important to you is going to be new. Okay? And this is the most important part. You got to understand that depending on who you believe, there's all these scientists out in the world that say they know how long it takes to create a new set of habits or a new habit. It ranges anywhere from 3 to 6 months up to a year. So what that means is that if you come up with an action plan or you come up with a set of items that you're going to start doing that you know are going to help you grow, that you may not like, that are probably outside your comfort zone, that are probably outside of your habit pattern, you're going to have to force it for at least 3 months before you're like, okay, I'm good. This is just part of what I do. And I don't think it's 3 months. I think it's longer, to be honest with you. I know it is for me. Okay. I would lean more towards 6 months. So that means that if you start tomorrow, you're not going to be really, really comfortable with what you're doing or trying to do until March of 2026. Think about that. That's a long time. What happens when we don't realize how long it takes to develop those habits, when we don't pay attention to that? What happens once we start? We stop, right? We stop. I'm the worst damn recruiter in the world. I'm horrible at it. Okay? The reason I'm horrible at it isn't because I don't know how to talk to people, isn't because I'm not uncomfortable with it, isn't because I don't like doing it. It's because I am so inconsistent that I'm not effective. Okay? That I'm not effective. Okay, Damian, so what are you going to do about that? Because you already said that this is one of your key priorities, and you've already said just now that you're no good at it, you're not consistent with it. So what are you going to do about it? Well, let me tell you. Let me answer you. What was my action plan? And this, by the way, started in October. Okay? Started in October. I researched, used NextHome, Jim Fischetti, all of the resources I could find, okay, to say what is the absolute best platform that I can use to help make me consistent, my weakness, help make me consistent in this effort so that I can be more successful. And they all said it's this. And I said, okay, great. How much does it cost? And they said, well, it costs this much every month. And I said, ooh, okay, great. And then Jim, you guys all spent a little bit of time with him on a Zoom. Jim says, Big D, it's the greatest thing in the world if you use it. Like, you have to do the work. You have to do it. If you're not going to figure out a way to schedule your time to do it, just don't do it and keep doing what you're doing now. I said, okay, good enough. So I identified what I needed. I identified the budget. And then the last part of that, this is all going to make sense to you. The last part of that was the calendaring part. Okay? The calendaring part. There's an entry on my calendar every day, not every day, 5 days a week, 5 days a week, and there's a time slot for me to use the system. And that's what it says. Use the system. Okay? Because the system is so cool and works so well that all I have to do is go in and use it. All right? If I use it, it'll generate appointments, it'll generate contacts, it'll generate meetings, and then I can do the rest. Right? Like I've always said, get me in the living room, get me to the kitchen table, I'll do the rest. It sounds simple, but it's not. It's not simple. Just like this process won't be simple for you. When we talk about what you want to achieve, when we talk about what the action plan is, when we talk about the calendar for that for you guys got to understand it's not going to be simple and it's going to feel overwhelming. Okay? And if it doesn't, you probably did it wrong. All right? So here's what I want you to start thinking about. Okay? And I'm gonna say the same thing I say every time this time of year to all of you, and that is, if you want help with this, I will absolutely help you. I will sit down with you. I will grind it out. I will figure it all out for you. I'll help you calendar it. I'll challenge your thinking. I'll make sure that you're doing something that's both a stretch and achievable, and I'll help you plan all that out. But you got to ask me. Like, you got to ask me, Damian, I want an hour with you. Let's schedule some time to sit down and go through this stuff. I am not going to come, okay, let me see how Michael's doing. Let me see how Steve's doing. Let me see how Shelby's doing. Let me see how Jess is doing. I'm not doing that. It's not who I am. Okay? I want you to come up with 3 or 4. That's it. 3 or 4 goals for you or for your business for next year. Okay? Only 3 or 4. No more than that. That's it. Okay? Preferably 3, to be honest. Until you get really, really comfortable with this stuff. 3 is a lot. Right? When you talk about goals, they've got to be specific and they've got to be achievable, but they've got but a stretch, not slam dunks. Okay, not slam dunks. Specific. What does specific mean? If I say to you, I want to sell more units than I did last year, does that sound pretty good? Yeah. Is it specific? No. If I say to you, I want to sell 24 units, is that specific? Absolutely. It's yes or no. At the end of the year, I know yes or no. 24 yes, 24 no, right? I can check throughout the year. Okay, 24, that's 2 a month, 3 months gone by. Do I have 6 in the bank? Yes. Okay, I'm on track. No. Okay, I'm behind. I got way more than that. Okay, maybe I undershot the goal. It's got to be specific. It's got to be achievable. If I say to you, I want to sell 24 units. Is there anybody out here that's going to tell me that that's not even in your wheelhouse? You can't do it. No. I mean, I've done it, right? I can do that. If I say to you, and I've known agents like this, by the way, I want to do 100 units. Yeah, great. So do we all. But you're not going to do that. Like, you're not going to do that. Okay, if you're used to doing 8, 10, 12 units a year, and that's how your business is set up, and that's how your infrastructure is set up, and that's what you're equipped to do, you're not going to go do 100 next year without getting us all sued. Okay? You're not going to do it. It's not achievable. On the other hand, if I was to come to you and say, hey, Steve, I got my goal set. I want to sell 5 units next year, man. That's my goal. Steve's going to look at me like, what kind of goal's that? Right? So specific, achievable, but a stretch. Now, is it a stretch for me to sell 24 units? No. I mean, I can do that in my sleep, but it is in the economy that we're in. It's a damn stretch, right? Unless things change. And if all of a sudden things get really, really busy, right? And that seems too low, well, then we can adjust. We can adjust midway. So you got to have 3 specific achievable goals that are going to require some work and some effort. This is the hard part. That's the easy part, by the way. Coming up with those numbers and coming up with those goals or coming up with those ideas, that's the easy part. Here's the hard part. The hard part is, how am I going to do that? Okay. Now, I know a lot of people that say, this is what I'm going to do. And I say, how are you going to do that? And they say, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I'm thinking things are going to get busier and it's going to be awesome. That is not a plan. Okay? That is not a plan. That is just basically sitting around and taking whatever the world gives you. Right? That's what that is. Right? And we can all do that, but I mean, it's probably not a real good recipe for success. A plan is, if I want to sell this many units, how am I going to do that? What am I going to do specifically to build that business so that I have a shot at making that goal? Here are some ideas. All right. My action plan might be, well, I'm going to do 10 sphere calls a week. Well, I'm going to identify 3 farms. And within those 3 farms, I'm going to do 4 touches, right? I'm going to do a hanger. I'm going to do a piece of mail. I'm going to do a UPS delivered flyer, whatever. Okay. I'm going to do some farming. You can say it might be, I'm going to pick 10 properties to circle prospect, which is also kind of like farming, right? 10 properties to circle prospect. I'm going to invest in money. I'm going to invest some money and I'm going to buy leads. That might be part of it. I invested money to buy the recruiting thing, right? Maybe I'm going to buy leads. Maybe I'm going to do door knocking, whatever it is. I've got these 5 things that I have identified that will help me achieve the one goal. Those 5 things are the action plan. Okay? Now, it can be really simple and it can be really detailed. Like, item 1 on the action plan might be, I'm going to identify 4 farms and I'm going to hit each of those 4 farms with 5 touches each. Great. I understand what that means. You understand what that means. It's easy to it's easy to implement. It's easy to know whether or not you did it. Right? More difficult might be, well, I'm going to do circle prospecting on 12 random units, and with those 12 random units for the circle prospecting, I'm going to do 3 touches. Okay, how are you going to find the 12 units? Are the 12 units going to be from our office or from somewhere else? What kind of touches are you going to do in those units? Right? That might have more information under that action plan step than the first one. But whatever it is, you got to be specific so that when you read it, you say, okay, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do to support this goal, and I know exactly how often I'm going to do it. Okay. I know what it's going to cost if it costs money. All right. And I can look at it and look what I wrote, and I can say, yes, I'm doing it, or no, I'm not. No question. Yes, it's getting done. No, it isn't getting done. Okay. Once you develop those action plan steps, now we gotta calendar it. Okay. Within your action plan, you know the frequency. You've got to get it on your calendar and you've got to budget time to do it. And here's why you have to do it that way. It's probably going to take more time than you think it will when you're just brainstorming your action plan. Right? Once you actually put it on a calendar and see how many minutes, hours a day it's going to take, it's going to help you realize, okay, maybe I need some changes in my lifestyle to allow this time to happen. Maybe I need to get up earlier to allow for this stuff to happen. Maybe I need to throttle back what I want to do because I can't physically dedicate that much time to it. This is why the calendar, the realistic calendar, is really, really important because you all have other things going on in your lives, and hopefully, starting now and moving forward, you're also going to be having more business pop up in your lives. Because remember, all of this stuff has to occur. All of these actions have to occur while you're living life, while you're doing family stuff, while you're tending to existing business. You can't take away from anything else to implement the action plans to achieve the goals. Doesn't work that way, right? So the calendar is a really, really critical step to understand what it is I'm signing up for and whether or not I'm going to be able to do it and what I need to adjust in my life or in my schedule to make sure that it happens. Because if you don't, well, then you get what you have now, right? Understand that you are going to have, if you want to grow your business, you're going to have to do things that you're not doing now. You're going to have to budget time for things that you're not doing now. You're going to have to allow for activities that you're not doing now. And in the beginning, at least, you're not going to like it. But that's the way that it is if you want to grow. And I'm pretty sure that I'm looking at the list. I'm pretty sure that everybody on this call wants to grow. Okay? Almost, yeah, I'm 100% sure, right? You can't do it unless you decide, here's where I'm going, here's how I get there, and I'm actually going to do it. I cannot tell you how many people in this industry, in this world, I talk to a lot of them, are it blows my mind. The conversation goes like this. How's things going? Sucks. Okay, good. Well, what do you think is going to happen in the next 6 months? Well, I think things are going to get better. I'm bullish, right? I'm charged up. I'm excited. How many units you doing now? Well, I'm tracking to do 5. Okay, how many units you going to do next year? Well, I want to do 12. Okay, great. All of that sounds really, really good to me. Tell me, what are you going to do to make sure that that happens? Nothing. Nothing. Right? Well, I just think things are going to pick up. Great. I think things are going to pick up too, but tell me the one thing that just tell me one thing that you're going to do that you're not doing now to make sure that it happens? And then you can see them go like this. Okay. When somebody's eyes go up and to the left, I'm going to give you a hint now. When they look up and to the left, okay, if you're talking to somebody and they look up and to the left, that means that they're making it up as they go along. Okay. They all give me an answer, but they all look up and to the left, which means you're making this up as you go along. You never put any thought into it before this conversation, and you're going to forget about it 5 minutes after we hang up the phone. All right? Or 5 minutes after we get off the Zoom. Okay? That's how most of the industry and most of the world operates. Waiting for something to happen, waiting for something good to happen. You can't do that if you want to have the kind of growth that some of you have mentioned to me. You cannot do that. You have to make it happen. And the time to start making it happen is right now. It is October 9th. All right. You would be hard pressed to come up with a great set of goals and a really solid action plan and a calendar and calendaring and everything done and dialed in and thought through and really figured out. You would be hard pressed to do that in a week. All right. It takes more than a week. You would be hard pressed. But if you happen to do it in a week, if you happen to really just nail it in a week, all right, that's already the middle of October and you haven't started. Okay. So let's be realistic. Let's say if you work really, really hard on it, make it a priority that maybe, just maybe, you'll be in action by November 1. That'll only give you a 60-day head start from 2026. That's where we are. Okay. It absolutely blew my mind the other day. I don't remember who it was. Somebody sent me a copy of a BRBC that they executed, right? Hey, check my BRBC. I'm like, yeah, okay, send it over. So they send over the copy of the BRBC, and like the second box is the term, right? And the term it ended next year. I was like, holy shit. Like that's where we are. We're less than 90 days from January 1st, 2026. So time's now. Guys, got to get on it, right? I'm behind. I don't know about you. Well, yeah, I do. You're behind too. I'm behind. Okay, but at least I got one thing nailed down. I got one thing nailed down. Okay, I got three to go, but I got one thing nailed down. Okay? You got to get into it too. So think about that. Okay? Here's the things, just as a reminder, quick recap. Here's what I want you to think about. How do you expand your brand? Okay? How do you do that? How do you expand your book? Okay? How do you do that? How do you increase your sales? And when I say sales, I'm talking about units. How do you sell more units next year than you did last year? How do you do that? Give me three goals. Don't give them to me. Give them to you. If you want me to go over them with you, give them to me. Three goals that relate to those items, a detailed action plan that supports those goals, and a calendar for the entire year. Okay. Get familiar with Google Calendar. You can click repeat. All right. For the entire year that marches out that action plan. That's how you're going to succeed. Okay. And remember, it's going to suck for at least 3 months. All right. Questions, clarifications, thoughts, whatever, before I send you on your way packing. Today was quick, real quick. All right. Also very important. Remember what I said too. If you get into action sooner, it's going to help you finish the fourth quarter really, really strong, right? Going to help you, going to help you finish the fourth quarter really strong. All right. Who has questions or wants to add anything or needs clarification or any of that? Has anybody done any of this yet for 2026? If you have, I want to hear from you. No. Okay. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to have, let me see a calendar, to have all of this thought through and your calendar worked up by Halloween, 31st. Okay. If you need help, let me know. If you want to review, if you haven't done this a lot, come up with the 3 goals and run them by me before you do a bunch of work on the action plan. All right. Let's make sure that it's reasonable for you, and also that it's a stretch for you. I don't want any slam dunks. Slam dunks are for wimps. Okay. And see if you can't get it done by the 31st. If you want, like I said, if you want my help, just let me know. Happy to do it. Right. If you don't have anything else, I'm going to click the button. Somebody talk, don't talk. You got 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you later.